Alright everyone, we start off today talking about the Sambankmanfried saga, continuing of course one of the main charges against him got dropped because they couldn't get the nation of the Bahamas to cooperate on extraditing him unless they dropped a significant charge, which is campaign finance violation. The problem is that the campaign finance violations stem from donations totaling over $100 million in the 2020 election cycle, or was it 2022? Sam Bankman-Fried, actually the second largest Democratic Party donor after George Soros himself. Of course, he's the one that ran the crypto exchange FTX that went belly up, and in the end now, I guess technically he's broke, although on paper, I'm sure there's still some assets out there. Now, here's what I think. Oh, by the way, there's an extra link in the description to the Grifties page. You can vote for me and for my cats there, so, we're trying to win Grifty Awards. We're trying to get 2 this year. Just throwing that in before I continue here. Here's my thing. I believe that a phone call was made to the Bahamas. Probably multiple phone calls from people that are on the major donor list. It could have been a DNC official, could have been Lisa Murkowski, oddly. A couple of Republicans did receive money from Sam Bankman-Fried. They just happened to be like the Romney and Bushite-style Republicans, Murkowski, Collins, and a few others. Otherwise, it's straight Democrats, so donating through ActBlue, donating to various PACs and other organizations, etc. Again, over $100 million. I would think that the United States probably has enough diplomatic leverage to say, come on, man, we'll sweeten the deal somehow, but, we want to get him on these charges. Unless, of course, he's donated to half of Congress, in which case the Bahamas are getting phone calls from various public officials who are taxpayer-funded, I would add, in order to make sure that there is no extradition while that charge stands. I don't think that the nation of the Bahamas, looking at the rap sheet that we're looking at, it's more than campaign finance law. I don't think that the Bahamas would have a big problem with extraditing while that charge stands, because there's no reason. I mean, it's at their discretion. They do have an agreement that they can agree not to extradite under certain circumstances, but they don't have to. They can extradite anyway. Instead, what we see is that a person who's extremely well political connected, once again, has a major felonious charge dropped just to get him potentially extradited anyway. It's not like the Bahamas has the ability to force the United States to stand down on the issue. The Bahamas, I mean, what's their military? It's probably 10 people throwing rocks. And other than being a tax haven, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, a lot of tourism. Why the fuck would we care what the Bahamas think? Why the hell would we care? Sam Bankman-Fried should stand on these charges. But it's the DC insiders that effectively pulled the trigger on them dropping the charge. I don't think for a minute that it was the Bahamas' own idea. They probably got phone calls from the DCCC, the DNC. Maybe George Soros dropped him a line. Or somebody else. Maybe some dark money groups, people in the mafia or in some cartel. Hey, it'd be a shame if you had a couple people a couple tourists get beheaded on one of your islands. Wouldn't be great for tourism over the next season. So you may want to do something about that campaign finance thing, because we keep getting complaints from our partners in the U.S. government. Susan Collins won't stop ringing my ear is ringing from all the phone calls I've had to take from that nut. Look at the laundry list. There are lists out there, and look it up. It's not difficult to do, of the individual donations. It's a huge, huge list. It's sort of like Epstein's client list. We know that Epstein didn't kill himself. We know he was assassinated, but you've got so many potential people with a reason to want him dead that you can't necessarily fixate on any specific person as far as that goes. We still don't even have the full Epstein list. We just have some flight logs and shit like that. Well, some of those people have been embroiled in other bizarre behavior of a sexual nature at one time or another. Bill Clinton definitely near the top of that list. When we say, of course, that what did he know about Hillary Clinton? Quite a bit. But she wasn't the only person who's adjacent to somebody who went to Lolita Island. Sam Bankman-Fried, likewise, he's got ties again. Anyone who's not flat out far left, and some of them got money through, the PAC donations anyway, or who's MAGA, basically he donated to them. And to evangelicals. You'll note that the handful of Republicans he sent money to number one, they're way down the list. Number two, you'll notice that there's a commonality there. You'll notice that they're on some important panels within the Senate, especially, number one. And number two, you'll notice that they are non-MAGA, but they're also non-even, so they're not like Tea Partyists or something like that. That's actually not that many people in the U.S. Senate in the Republican Party. I mean, Cornyn would be too moralistic. Mitt Romney would be a little bit too obvious, I guess. So he decided to focus mainly on Murkowski and Collins, to have a couple people on the other side of the aisle that would also make phone calls for him because they owe him. Because they don't want him to spill the beans. Right now, they're setting up to give him like a Hunter Biden-esque sweetheart deal, probably, so that he ends up in the end getting a slap on the wrist and say, well, some of the money was paid back. He got in too deep. He just got in over his head. He had an idea. He was trying to make something out of what he was doing instead of just having a bunch of ever-bouncing shell companies using one another to make magical money that doesn't even exist. And he didn't realize what he was doing was wrong. He had no clue. They're setting up to do something like that because he's friends, literal friends with Maxine Waters. You'll notice that. She was clapping for him at one point. He's got friends in high places, and the law is a spider's web. The flies are caught, the wasps go free. Sam Bankman-Fried, because of the amount of money he managed to fraudulently create out of thin air on the backs of his shareholders and donate to political causes, he's a wasp. And he'll remain one, even though now he's broke and they would really, they would like to Epstein him probably just to keep him quiet. And that could, by the way, very well happen. He hanged himself. It happens all the time. The orderlies weren't there that night, the guards fell asleep, the cameras turned off, and he was left extra linen, and his cellmate was sent to a solitary, and we couldn't put another person in the cell because, there was no one else to put in there. And so he killed himself, inexplicably, in the dead of night. And the visitors' logs, by the way, were scrubbed the other day. I don't know, what a coincidence. That's basically what happened in the Epstein case, by the way. Everyone heard screaming from the cell. The people who were hanging themselves, they scream a lot. That's possible. Looking at this, though, it's beyond the realm of possibility that this farce originates with the Bahamas themselves. It originates from somewhere in D.C. or on Wall Street, more likely than not. That's where the call came from. Calling collect from Washington, D.C. To accept the total of $10.99 charge for this call, please press 1 now. Beep. Oh, shit. Oh, it's Susan Collins. Oh, it's Elizabeth Warren. Oh, it's the head of ActBlue. Bundles money for the Dems to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars a year. Yeah, coincidentally, you should call right now. Yeah, don't worry, he'll escape or be killed, probably. He'll find his cell empty. And nobody ever hears from him again. But somebody whose name's Samwise Bankman-Fried, all of a sudden he shows up in Romania or Ukraine or something, and he's a big business mogul with a lot of money, and nobody knows quite how he got it. This is like it happens, unfortunately, within the corrupt world of D.C. and of politics in general. And so I would expect more funny business before this is all over. That's about all. Peace out.